Om Ganati Marandasyangarangana Sarakya Chaksurin Meditam Yanatashmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayodhira Nashtaprayashu Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagati Adamashoki Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki Nigama Kapadura Garitam Param Shukamakara Javisamyutam Pibata Bhagatam Rashamadayam Mahora Horashika Bhubibhagaham Krishna Sadama Bhagade Damagina Hisha Karuna Stadu Samasha Paranako Dunodidaham Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Pasaya Bhutare Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tanamani Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pachani Nirvishes Sanyori Paskata De Satani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I guess I better not make any sudden movements, otherwise I'll disappear. Anjali posted on a devotee forum a screenshot from last Wisdom Wednesday where my body had disappeared from the neck down and it was just this K2 Rahu type head floating. But we figure it's better to have an imperfect, virtual, beautiful temple background than to have none at all. I hope you agree with me. Jean, Rakesh, glories to Prabhupada, Anjali, welcome to Motivational Monday. And we've got Jimmy and Taruni as well, who already made comments. We already have 5 comments. And likes, Malini Priti from Malaysia, Justin, Michigan, as well as the aforementioned Jimmy and Taruni, Rakesh, Jean, and Raleigh from Spanish Fork, Utah. Interesting, isn't it? My mystic powers, I'm like Salva with his whole airplane, his aerial city, which could shoot arrows from an invisible place, appear and disappear at will. I have some news to share with you before we launch back into our verse today. Yesterday at the Sunday feast was a momentous occasion. Jai Krishna came to do the kirtan for the first time since March. Yes, Jai Krishna has done kirtans in the temple for 35 years. If you want to hear a good kirtan, catch our Sunday feast Facebook live broadcast yesterday evening. Go forward to the Arti. This is the first Sunday feast Arti that Jai Krishna's led. March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, in a year, or well, 11 months, 10 or 11 months, yeah. Other than that, he's pretty much led every Sunday kirtan for the last 35 years, and he's our secret weapon. He's our hidden treasure. Jai Krishna runs a yoga and a karate studio in Orem. He's been coming since high school. He just celebrated his 52nd birthday on January 4th. And before then, he'd been keeping safe because he has a asthmatic condition. So he was sheltering at home, and so we didn't see him for a number of months. And then just shortly after he got his 52nd birthday, he got COVID. And it was pretty bad for 3 days. It was nip and tuck there, barely breathe. He would indicate yes or no by raising or lowering his finger. That's how bad it was. But to every dark cloud, there's a silver lining. He got over it. Thank the Lord. He passed his 2 weeks quarantine, and he has showed up at the Sunday evening program last night to lead a kirtan. I didn't realize how much we missed his kirtans until he led it. And he was only allowed to come, he only got permission from his beautiful wife Kim to come under the condition, because it takes a long time to recover. He's still weak and he still has dizzy spells. But his wife only allowed him to come in the condition that he wouldn't play the drum. So nobody tell Kim. This is just between us, okay? He played the drum loud. It was every bit as good a kirtan as he's ever done. I hope he's not paid for it. by getting Jai Krishna's there. He's commented with the pranams and a big heart. He says, I get to lead kirtan again. And I hope you'll forgive me for this because we call this Monday morning Bhagavad class, but since we're on the subject of Jai Krishna's kirtans, I got to tell you about this. One time, we went to India twice together, and one time we found ourselves in Bangalore. We visited the Jagannath iskcon temple there in Bangalore for their Sunday feast, and it happened to be Vaikuntha Ekadasi. And they said that on the following weekend they were going to have Rath Yatra, the great parade of Lord Jagannath. And it was going to be down the main road in Bangalore. You can imagine Bangalore is the most, next to Bombay, it's the most bustling, congested, modern city in all of India. It used to be the head of all the IT. And MG Road, Mahatma Gandhi Road, is where all the Western Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, all the trendy shops are, and all the well-to-do people. It's like Boulevard Saint-Michel in Paris. Everybody goes to see and be seen there with all the latest fashion and trends. And there's also simple people, workers who go back and forth on double-decker buses. So they don't have a short parade. There's no such thing as a short Rath Yatra in India. It's like 6 hours. They had a car with a big speaker front and back and an amplification system. And there were about 6 really, really good kirtan singers lined up for the route. Each one got a half an hour slot. Jai Krishna and I were about the only Westerners who were in devotee garb. So after the first kirtan slot, and these are really good kirtan singers. These are the best that India has to offer. And they all sing in a higher pitch than what we're used to in the Western countries. It's just something genetic with the Indian anatomy. They sing a little bit higher. Well, the interesting thing is that Jai Krishna always has sung a little bit higher. He just has that higher pitch as well. So anyway, they know me. They know Caru. I'm infamous wherever I go in iskcon. So they asked me, Caru, do you want to lead the second half-hour shift? And I said, I'll pass, but Jai Krishna is pretty good. So they kind of hesitantly, well, would you like to lead? Kind of with the idea that if he's not up to the standard, they'll snatch the microphone away from him. So, and Jai Krishna was a little nervous. This was a big, big stage, a lot more people than Spanish Fort Utah. Literally, at any time, there were like 10,000 people between the ones that are leaning out of the office buildings and browsing through the shops and passing on double-decker buses. But Jai Krishna started chanting. And right away, the Indians, they resonated with his higher pitch. And he did a great job. He did a great job. So after the half an hour, Jai Krishna says, okay, so thanks very much for the opportunity. Who's going to chant now? And they said, hey, you keep going. We like you. And literally, there were times when there were like 150, 200 brahmacharis and householders just like going up and down, up and down. Jai Krishna is getting more and more and more and more into it. It's like oceans of people like just going up and down and everything. So at the end of an hour, he says, okay, and I had double the normal allotted time. Who's next? And I said, do one more. So he chanted for about an hour and a half. And I just couldn't, I couldn't mention Jai Krishna's coming back, leading kirtan last night, without this very sweet, fond, relishable memory coming to the surface. And I thought perhaps you guys wouldn't mind if I shared it with you, right? Anjali, Barbara, Wolf, Rakesh, Ram Kishore, thank you all. Got 15 comments now, and we haven't even started our Bhagavatam class. But hopefully, if Jai Krishna feels good and strong this morning, it didn't take too much out of him, you can look forward to our Facebook Live Sunday Feast talks from Spanish Fork, incorporating his wonderful kirtans moving forward. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Okay, let's see who we got here. Again, Jimmy and Taruni, Mahatma, thank you. The greatest of all the Prashadarians. wonderful, mouth-watering recipes all the time. Ram Kishore. And we enjoy looking at his Facebook posts about his mountain climbing treks of yore, and even presently, although his destinations are somewhat modest now in his autumnal years than they were previously. But the flashbacks indicate that this was a guy who liked a challenge. Barbara, thanks for joining us. Rakesh, as always. Anjali, Bhakti Gary, thank you, Bhakti Gary. Malini, all the way from Malaysia. I think Govinda Bhakta was on earlier, and he's tuning in from Govardhan Echo Village in India. Raleigh from far away, distant place, just across the street. And then Jean from Salt Lake City. All right. So it's interesting because I prepared a set of notes a week ago about this verse. And it just seemed that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday last week, just one word would just trigger so many philosophical and devotional thoughts. So I still have the whole set of notes that I prepared a week ago. Basically, they're unexplored, untouched. So I don't know what's going to happen. No one's more surprised at what happens during these sessions than I am. But let's just dive in and see what happens. See if I can keep myself here. For starters, let's just see if I can keep myself visible for the next few minutes here. So you don't have to deal with a disembodied voice coming to you. For the fourth day consecutively, this is the 12th verse in the 4th chapter of the 1st canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Good morning, Rupa Manjari. Thank you, Raquel, for joining us from Stockton. Jai Krishna weighs in. He says that was a great day, referring to Rath Yatra in Bangalore city. Here we go. Shivaya Lokasya Bhavaya Bhutaya Ya Dutamashoka Parayana Janaha Divanti Nat Martam Ashu Parasaram Umocha Nibidya Kuta Kalevaram. Those who are devoted to the cause of the personality of Godhead live, and this is referring to Maharaj Pariksit, only for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. They do not live for any selfish interests. So even though the Emperor Pariksit was freed from all attachment to worldly possessions, how could he give up his mortal body, which was shelter for others? And I just had a thought. You may be familiar with Machiavelli's The Prince, which is the codes of how a king should rule. There was a similar book. Actually, we believe that Machiavelli took a lot of his information from this book, which was written 3 centuries before Christ by Chanakya Pandit, called Kautilya Arthashastra. Sometimes Chanakya wrote under the name of Kautilya. So Arthashastra, the Shastra of how to rule. And it has many of the pre-Machiavellian principles. So one thing that comes through very loud and clear is, in spite of all the things that the king has to do, including espionage and, sometimes dealing with enemies, it says you have to, and it's well known that when the king smiles at you, watch out, you're in trouble, because the king will never show that he intends to exile you or get rid of you. It has to come as a total surprise, because if he telegraphed his intentions, then you might try to counteract that by preempting him. So king always smiles, and the more he smiles, the more leery you have to be. So there are many things that he has to do to protect the kingdom and preserve the sanctity of the monarchy. But it's very clear that the king's life is lived for others. Later on, of course, the monarchy became degraded. We think of Marie Antoinette, people standing outside of her balcony, starving, asking for bread, and she cynically, insensitively, inconsiderately says, "Let them eat cake." And so that's the emblem of the degraded, corrupt monarchy. But it wasn't always like that. It wasn't originally about the monarch enjoying and exploiting parasitically, sucking the blood from the citizens, but it was just the opposite. The monarch would give his blood for the citizens. He would dedicate himself just as a father dedicates themselves to the children, and the citizens themselves felt as protected and as loved by the king as a child is protected and loved by their father. And one thing that reveals that very clearly is Chanukya divides a 24-hour day into 18 muhurtas. Muhurtas is an hour and a half period, 90 minutes. And he talks about how several of those muhurtas the king has to do durbar, he has to sit, and anybody from his kingdom can come, make a complaint, bring a court case. He has to hear all the competing sides and make a judgment like Solomon of old. He has to meet with his spies during one or two muhurtas. He has to, Lakshmi Nrsimha is coming. All right, Lakshmi, if you want to, I've got on speaker. So if you start to speak, you'll automatically come front and center. Let me just finish this little story here, and then please jump in at will. Is that okay? All right, thank you. I don't know, can everyone see Lakshmi? No, you can't see him yet because we're on speaker. I'll just go for a minute here. I'll just go for a second to the gallery. See, there's Lakshmi. Say hello, Lakshmi, to everybody. All right.
Hey, everybody. Haribo.
Here's Rob as well. All right. Okay, well, I'll just leave you on there. So, where was I now? My mind got a little spasm of happiness to see my god brother jumping on board here this afternoon. Oh yeah. So anyway, so there's 18 muhurtas, 18 90-minute segments in a 24-hour day. And according to Katila's Arti Shastra, after exercising all of his duties to rule and to keep his finger on the pulse of the kingdom and make sure that everyone's protected and that the enemies are kept outside of the borders and the enemies within the borders are being monitored, there are only 2 muhurtas for his sleeping. That means he gets to sleep 3 hours a day, and the rest of his time, 21 hours a day, is dedicated for the well-being of his citizenry. So it's very clear, it echoes what this verse says, is that those who are devoted to the cause of the personality of God, and the king is called Nara Dev. He is man, he is a god in human form. And originally, if you know from the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna originally entrusted this science of the yoga of the soul to the sun god, who is the head of the monarchical dynasty, Raghu dynasty, the Sun dynasty. And it was passed down in human society through the saintly kings. So in many, many different ways, Krishna shows that the kings are his representative. They're not meant to exploit, to suck the blood of the citizenry, but to act as parents, loving fathers, to take care, make sure the citizens are honest, their possessions are safe and secure, and that they can execute God's consciousness in this life and go back to home, back to Godhead. Any thoughts, Lakshmi?
Immediately, I thought of Rajarshi. That's what you were talking about. Raja Rishi. That is the king, not just Raja, but Rishi also. Evam Parampara.
That's the word I was trying to reach for. I came up with Naradev, but really the word I was trying to come up with was Raja Rishi, the king, the Lord in king form. So jump in at any moment here. I'm be more than delighted to be interrupted. But Prabhupada, Prabhupada said here, Maharaj Parikshit was an ideal king and householder because he was a devotee of the personality of Godhead. A devotee of the Lord automatically has all good qualifications. And the emperor was a typical example of this. Personally had no attachment for all the worldly opulences in his possession. Now, what would be our state of mind? Put yourself in Maharaj Parikshit's shoes, okay? He's got it all. He's got youth. Presumably he's got a beautiful wife, maybe more than one. Kids, he's got complete, unchallenged, uncontested sovereignty over the entire world as it existed at that time. And out of the blue, a bolt from the blue, 7 days, that's all. It's all grinding to a screeching stop. Now, we don't have those kinds of opulences. We're not sitting pretty like he was. We have our little, it says the pauper is proud of his penny. We've got our little prefab houses and our gas-consuming, carbon monoxide spewing cars and our paper money. But how would we react if we had only 7 days to live? Would we maintain not only peace and equanimity, but would we be able to anticipate, look forward to our impending demise, or would we just fall to pieces? Even as devotees, put yourself in those shoes. Test yourself theoretically. How fixed in Krishna consciousness am I actually? Um, if you have the same concerns and fears and frustrations and anxieties that the average person has, well, maybe you need to pay more attention to your practices of Krishna consciousness. What do you think, Lakshmi?
Oh yeah, nothing like focusing in on one sadhana. That's our anxiety. That's our response to how anxiety. William James is a great psychologist and philosopher. He said that the practical method for being relieved from stress is our ability to choose our thoughts. And after all, what is our sadhana? Where we place our thoughts. We practice that, and our thoughts go to the lotus feet of Krishna through japa, through kirtan, through Krishna Katha, all these things, association.
It's interesting because I got these emails from a guy named Ari Whitten who claims to increase longevity and immunize yourself against disease and all. And you know what he says is the greatest antidote to stress? Anyone can write in the comments. Give us your opinion. Thanks for joining us, Govinda, Sanjaya, Sundari Priya. Thanks for all listening. What do you think? You can write this in the comments. What do you think would be the #1 stress reliever? You won't believe the answer. You won't believe the answer. I'll give you a second. The #1 way to
Hugs.
relieve stress, huh?
Hugs.
Hugs. That'll do it. Yeah. Psychologists talk about hunger of the flesh, skin hunger. The fact that when we're young, we get frequent reinforcement. Our parents, our relatives demonstrate their love for us, their appreciation that we're here, their confidence that we will have a contribution to make as we mature and grow up under their guidance. And that's all communicated to us through frequent hugs. And then as we get older, the hugs lessen and lessen and lessen and lessen. And in fact, if you go without a hug for more than 2 weeks, psychologists say you're at a disadvantage. You're suffering from hug hunger. So Ram Kishore says, occupy the mind with activities, the #1 stress reliever. Guru Charan Singh says, chant Hare Krishna. No argument there. Rakesh Raghava says, reading scriptures and chanting the holy name. Ram Kishore Das says, breathing. All those are good. But I'm going to come at it from another angle. According to this health coach named Ari Whitten, he says, the #1 stress reliever is stress. It's stress. It's stress. What do we try to do in our modern lifestyle? We try to avoid stress, don't we? We have air conditioning. It's not too hot in summer. It's not too cold in winter. We live in offices with fluorescent lights, and we spend most of our days sitting. So that is the most hazardous lifestyle you could live. People who climb mountains, who do rock climbing, are going to live longer, enjoy life, and be healthier than someone who tries to insulate themselves against all the vicissitudes of material nature. And there is no more danger, life-threatening activity than sitting all day long. So the irony is that the more you try to protect yourself by surrounding yourselves with comfortable circumstances, the less you get out of your comfort zone, the less you try to challenge yourself, the shorter your lifespan is going to be, the more unhealthy you're going to be, and the quality of your life is in the pits. So it is stress that counteracts stress, and the great sages of India knew this. The stress counteracting practice of stressing yourself was called tapasya. It means voluntarily accepting discomfort in various ways in order to train your nerve endings and your psyche to accept unexpected circumstances, to not fall apart when life throws you a curveball, when someone's talking about you in the office, when you don't get that promotion that you deserved, when you lose a loved one. Why is it that we get PSTD from all these upheavals in our lives? Because we have tried to avoid them. And therefore, when they come, as they inevitably will, as they always will, because life is nothing more than a series of challenges. You're either in a challenge now, just coming out of a challenge, or you're between challenges. So you need to live your life in such a way as to expect and not try to avoid or stick your hand in the sand against challenges. So, what are some of the self induced stress points? We can get up early instead of watching late night TV. We can read the Bhagavad Gita instead of the top 10 bestsellers. This is all getting out of our comfort zone. We can chant the names of the Lord when we rise instead of going immediately to Facebook and start scrolling to see what all the current events are. We may not be able to jump into a bucket of cold water first thing in the morning. We actually have a couple of ladies, Brittany Anderson and her daughter, they come to the Sunday feast and they're in a club that does the ice baths. So I see it on Facebook. They actually have a group and they meet every Sunday morning to go into one of these tubs full of ice. And they say it's great. They swear by it. They say it's not like taking a cold shower, because then you actually are cold and uncomfortable. But when you in the middle of winter in Utah, when you immerse yourself in a tub full of ice, they say you actually get warm. What were you going to say?
I was just thinking that Krishna confirms that. He says, Matra sparshas konteya sitoshna sukadukada agama payino nita tang tatikshashwa bharata. Tolerance. That's what we have to learn. Tolerance.
Krishna is saying don't avoid stress, embrace it. I mean, don't go out of your way to like hang glide or bungee jump or rock climb. But stress is inevitable on some level, so you can voluntarily accept suffering, which is called tapasya. That is the best stress reliever. There's no more dangerous, risky lifestyle than that which is pursued by most people. They have their lazy boy, they have their big gulp, they have the remote on their TV, and they have heart attacks, coronary arterial disease, they have osteoporosis. They drop dead in their 40s because they're 40 or 50 pounds overweight. So if you don't have any challenges in your life, go and get some. Go and get some. See? So when the inevitable challenge comes, you'll be ready for them. Marsh Prekit, he's pursuing one lifestyle, which would superficially seem like he was enjoying like anything. I mean, he had probably more than one wife. Modern hedonists can only dream about that, and he had beautiful children. He had complete sovereignty, but he wasn't attached, because you know that in all of that, because he was a devotee of the Lord, he was rising early. He wasn't staying up late. They don't have showers in India, so he was taking an ice bath, most likely, worshiping the Lord, just as his grandfather Arjuna and his granduncles Yudhishthira, Bhima, Sahadeva, and Nakul had done. And the Lord is most easily and nicely worshipped in the morning hours when mode of passion hasn't set in, everything's still peaceful. At TV and big gulp, Anjali says, "Oh, we got her number." She feels called out. Ram Kishore says, "Go out and Hari Nam." Yes, yes. In all the times I've gone out in the street, I'm sure Lakshmi had the same experience. Sometimes you just don't feel like it, I mean, once a month or once a year or something, yeah, everybody going. But there were times when I would go out every day for 4 hours a day. Practically my first 10 years in Krishna consciousness. Harinam or book distribution. And it's okay to, I mean, sometimes we feel like it, but sometimes you don't. However, I can tell you that when you finished going out chanting, when you finished book distribution, you are on cloud nine. Doesn't matter what your attitude was when you started. You didn't want to get out of your comfort zone. You didn't want to bestir yourself. You didn't want to bother. But if and when you did and did that yajna, that sacrifice, that tapasya, Krishna Vana Titsashram, Yajanti Pishu Medisaham. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says those who are astute, those who are intelligent, and those who are ultimately going to free themselves from all stress, they will follow the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. So isn't it always blissful when you come back from Sankirtan, Lakshmi? What's your experience?
Oh, I was blessed, really. First 3 years in Krishna consciousness, I was with Vishnu John Swami on Radha Damodar. And we just basically talk about austere. I used to sleep on a tire. I'm lucky I'm small, or sleep on a big speaker, one of those long black speakers that he had. And, you talk about austerity, but it wasn't austere. It actually became joyful when you surrendered to it. I remember once you're talking about book distribution. I was out on the parking lot and it was really hot and no one was stopping. No one was giving me the time of day, what to speak of a donation and taking Bhagavad Gita. And like you said, you just want to get out of there. But then I just said to me, no, there must be a lesson here. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must want me to surrender or learn at least what surrender actually means. And at that point I said, I surrender. The very next person came and said, what are those books that you have? I didn't even have to say anything. They asked me, what are the books you had? And I told Bhagavad Gita. Oh, yeah, I've been looking. And he immediately took a Bhagavad Gita. So Gauranga just laid it on me. I'm waiting for your surrender, Okay, you surrendered. Here you go. This is a little reward. That's the way it works.
And we didn't even mention the greatest benefit of voluntary suffering, of accepting inconvenience, is that you get the mercy of Krishna. That's the zone.
Yeah.
Anybody can worship Krishna when things are going good, when you're comfortable. Thank you, Krishna. I'm looking good. I'm feeling good. I've got good threads. I've got good kids, good job, good house. Anybody can be faithful to God under those circumstances. But it's under stress. It's when you can't understand what's happening. Why did this person stab me in the back? Why did this unfair situation arise? And you keep your faith, you keep praising the Lord, you keep your faith up. That's when Krishna's mercy comes to you in spades. I remember one time we were in this little town in Australia. I think I was with Pratapana. Pratap and I were buddies. We often did two-man Sankirtan together for weeks at a time. And we were in this town, it probably was called Wagga Wagga or something, some Aboriginal name. And it was a small town, just a little strip of Main Street. And, we arrived during the lunch hour, and it was pretty good. We sold a bunch of Krishna books. We were in Devotees and Tilak, and people had never seen anything like a Hare Krishna devotee before. And so it wasn't easy. It wasn't difficult to attract attention. And we sold a good number of books. But then the lunch hour ended, and at 2 o'clock, and by 3 o'clock, not only had we not sold any books, but there hadn't even been anyone on the street for over an hour. And 3:30 went, 4 o'clock. We stuck it out to 5 o'clock. We didn't even sell a single book for 3 hours, and I was thinking, Krishna, this is a waste of time. Why are we here? And the story doesn't have a happy ending. We never did sell a book after that. But I was thinking too, Krishna, I don't understand why you had me standing here for 3 hours with no visible fruit, no visible. But I said, you know, it's not our role to understand. God has His own ways of doing things. If we could understand Him, if we could encompass Him in our tiny pea-like brains, then He just wouldn't be God. So I just said, well, someday I will understand. And I mustered up a good attitude in spite of the depressing circumstances, in spite of the lack of results. I said, well, I'm just not going to be down. We had a good lunch hour, And you know, Krishna has his own purposes. So I don't know. I feel like if nothing else, I develop the quality of patience by standing out there for 3 hours and not even seeing a person on the street. And I still don't know all the specifics of Krishna, what Krishna was working on. But look behind me. You know, that's just one of two temples, radio station, beautiful festivals and all. So it's what we do when nothing's happening. It's what we do when we don't understand it. It's what we do when things are taking too long. That the attitude that we have in the down times when we're out of our comfort zone, that more than anything is going to determine how much Krishna is going to favor us, how much is Krishna is going to bless us in the future. Am I wrong?
No, not at all.
Rupa Manjari.
Even
Yeah, go ahead.
even psychologists would concur with you.
So we all agree stress judiciously applied is the best stress reliever. That's our riddle. That's our conundrum of the day. You can twist that around in your mind for the rest of the day. Some of the comments are Rupa Manjari says Vishnu Jan and Radha Daman are ki jai. Govinda says what you resist, persist. So embrace difficult circumstances. Don't avoid them. Anjali says if and when you did that yagya, that tapasya, and then it's ... And Anjali says the TV and big gulp, I feel called out. So continuing here, the next reference we have is the 55th verse from the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktya mam abhijananti yavanyas chasmi tatparaha tato mam tatpato. By the way, Lakshmi, can you lead a little kirtan at the end of this in about...
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
If you need to grab a harmonium or anything, we'll finish up at 8:15 or thereabouts with a beautiful, wonderful kirtan by Lakshmi Nasringa.
Sure.
Yavanyas tasmita tato mam tatpato gyapa vishate tadanantaram. Krishna says to his friend and disciple Arjuna, who incidentally is himself a king and who is sacrificing himself on the warfield, risking his life to eliminate the world of tyrants and despots and atheists like Duryodhana, Sakuni, and even Karna, so that the population who he sees as his children and whom they see him as their father, can live peacefully in this life and maximize their chances to go back to home, back to Godhead. So the example of Arjuna is no less than that of all of the other Raja Rishis that we read about in the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Krishna says to his friend and disciple, and Prashant came up right away with that quote. He says, one can understand me as I am, as a supreme personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Now, the trick is, when you're trying for comfort, predictability, safety, you're trying for it in the material energy, and the material energy is like duplicitous, deceitful. It'll get you every single time. Krishna says, Dutam charitam ashmi tejas tejasminam jayoshmin vivashara satpa satpa dharamaham. It says of gamblers, I am the cheater. So you want to be safe, you want to be comfortable, you don't want to stretch your faith. You want to take from God, but you don't want to reciprocate. You go to the church, temple, or mosque with your shopping list. Give me this, give me this, give me this, give me this, give me this. God is your step and fetch it. You don't want to serve him, you want him to serve you. But he will cheat you because he loves you too much to leave you in the illusion that material energy is secure and or comfortable. Mama petya tu purnarjanma dukalaya masashvatam napnavanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gadim. He doesn't want you to be a duratma, a cripple-minded soul. He wants you to be a mahatma. And therefore, he's not going to leave you in your comfort zone. He's going to challenge you whether you like it or not. He wants you to go to the next level and end up taking shelter in him, finding your security in him, leaning on him and not on something temporary. When you lean on something temporary, It goes in due course of time. And then you fall. You fall, you crash. Krishna wants you to lean on him. He'll never let you down. He'll never step away from you. You can always count on him. So Krishna is going to challenge you in your comfort zone. You can count on it because he loves you. And the trick is to go from the material energy into the spiritual energy. When you enter into the spiritual energy, you enter into the loving embrace in the Lord. And it's maybe a scary prospect. Initially, it may be a little uncomfortable, but it says, what does it say? Vishayandriya samyoga yataraga mitaparam no, that's not yataraga vishameva parinam tatsukam satvikam anubhuti prashadam. That which is like poison in the beginning is like nectar in the end. I gave Anjali says he doesn't want you to be cripple-minded. Exactly. There's Mahatmas and then there's Duratmas. He wants you to be a Mahatma. Leaning on him, he'll never let you down. You can count on him because he loves you. But if you try and cheat God, reduce, artificially inflate your position as the enjoyer and deflate the position of God as someone who's meant to facilitate your enjoyment, he may go along with that to a certain extent. But at some point, he's going to pull the plug. He's going to pull the plug, and you're going to have to face the mandate of the human form of life. Are you going to rely on the external energy and be cheated, frustrated, anger, bitter, resentful? Or are you going to take shelter of the interior energy of the Lord? I'm reminded of a little poem. Of all the Christian poets, the one I think is most bhakti poet is someone named Frances Havergal. I've quoted her poems on numerous occasions, but one other comes to mind that I haven't quoted yet. It's very short. It says, my life is but a weaving between my Lord and me. I cannot choose the colors, but he works tirelessly. He often weaves sorrow, and I in foolish pride forget he sees the upper and I the underside. Not till the loom falls silent and the shuttle ceases to fly will Krishna unroll the canvas and reveal the reasons why. The dark threads are as needful in the weaver's skillful hand as are the threads of gold and silver in the pattern that he has planned. We don't always understand it. It doesn't always make sense to us. But when Krishna unrolls the canvas, he reveals the pattern and the plan that he had all along for us. Any comments, questions? Okay, probably enough food for thought today. What do you think? Want to do a little kirtan, Lakshmi?
Absolutely.
How many are happy that Lakshmi jumped in today? Give him a word or two of approval. Encourage him to come back and join us whenever you'd like to.
Thank you.
Also, for those who don't know it, we have Rob here on the Zoom call with us as well. He's our silent partner. Rob's up to 300 episodes now of Wisdom of the Sages. He's a devoted follower of Raghunath and Kastuba. They do a nice service in their morning Bhagavatam classes coming out of New York at 3 a.m. So thanks, Sanjaya, for your 2 thumbs up. Thanks, Bye Bobby. She says, awesome. Ram Kishore says, Hari Bol. Comments are coming fast and furious. We've already got the quote from Anjali. Life is but a weaving that I just quoted. Was it Frances Havergal or someone else? Anyway. George says, Jai Lakshmi, thanks for joining us. Anjali says, that was so cool to hear a dialogue between you and Lakshmi and Shringa. Prashant, thank you very much for the quotes. If you think the dialogue was cool, wait till you hear the kirtan. Hubba, hubba. I'm going to mute myself so I don't jump back on.
Okay. I'm going to get my mridanga.
Okay.
Sometimes I use this guy too. Ektar.
Use whatever you want, do whatever you want. We're We're your captured audience here.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Gaura Pramanandi Hari Hari Bol. Jai Radhe, Jai Shanti.
I think we just went to the next level with this show. It was all I could do to keep from raising my arms and clapping, because when I do that, I disappear. So I had to induce stress to keep my arms by my side. Otherwise, I would have just.
Tapasya.
Hey, if you want to see any of the comments, a lot of people watching on our Facebook page, Caru, Utah, and you can read the comments. John Malik says, and John Malik's our music guru. He says, marvelous kirtan. Sundari Priya says, thank you very much, Prabhuji, for the blissful kirtan. Anjali says, Hari, with about 17 eyes. Bol. Ram Kishore, I forget what he said because his comments have gone out. I think he said, wonderful kirtan. Prashant said, thank you very much. Rupa Manjari's got all these clapping hands emojis. So you're very much appreciated, Lakshmi. And myself, I've got goosebumps.
Thank you.
So yeah.
Mercy of the Vaishnavas.
If you want to monitor the very appreciative comments, go to Caru, Utah, and you can also add any comments, respond to any of your admirers there too as well. And we would love to have you come anytime. I mean, I don't know what your schedule is, but love to have you as part of the discussion. that should not be possible in any given day, you could come in just at the end around 8:15 and give us another kirtan. We love you. We'll take whatever we can get. What did you think of that, Rob, our fellow Zoomer? What did you think of the kirtan especially? What was your impression?
The entire thing was great, but the kirtan especially, I very much appreciate the island vibe that was going on there.
Oh yeah.
Sounded
Can't
wonderful.
get it.
Thank you so much. Haribol.
You probably got even more Latino versions of it that you could come up with in the future, right?
Oh yeah. Sometimes when before COVID, we would do kirtan with at yoga studios, and there's a lot of very musically educated people on this island from the music conservatory, and I'd have like 8 or 9 of those musicians playing with me. You know, classically trained guitarists, classically trained celloists, classically trained. You know, all these really great, and it just goes to some other level that I don't know where. It's kind of Caribbean / transcendental.
Wow, we can only imagine. We can only imagine. Sankirtan, Yagya, Sankirtan out of our comfort zone, Sankirtan from the material energy into the spiritual energy. Ki, and I'm probably going to disappear now. Ki Jai.
Wow.
At
You're
least,
you're a mystic yogi.
well, at least you get to see the whole temple now. Isn't that a benefit? Well, thank you. Thanks all for joining. Let me just see thank you for your likes. We got 29 people who liked, including Justin, Rakesh. Oh, and now the emojis have gotten in the way. Okay, here we go. Thank you very much for liking. Justin, Jimmy and Truni, Rakesh, Sanjay, Vaibhavi, John Malik, Radhisham, Lenny, Narottam Das, Raider. You know him, right, Lakshmi?
Oh, absolutely. We were on Radha Damodar together.
Yeah, he just gave us a like. Narottam Das, Sundari Priya,
Oh, no.
Jai Krishna. I think his initial Narottam Das, but anyway. Jai
No,
Krishna.
Narad Muni.
Narad Muni, that's it. Yeah.
Lenny Raiders, Narad Muni, but there is a Narottam Das. He lives here in the Caribbean also.
Okay. Well, Lenny Raider, thank you for joining. Thank you for liking. Sundari Priya, Jai Krishna Das, about whose kirtan skills we talked earlier. Govinda Dev, Rajapati Sutta, Sudarshan Chakra, Onkar Joshi, Ram Kishore, Celia, thank you. Nora, all the way from, gosh, I get Venezuela and Argentina mixed up. I'm pretty sure it's Venezuela. But you can slap my wrist with an emoji if you like. Haridas Thakur, AC, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Ki Jai. Thanks, Raquel and Sean from Stockton. Mahatma, the greatest of all the Prashadarians. Barbara Wolf, Anjali, Malini Preeti from Malaysia, Raleigh, Jean, Rupa Manjari, and Bhagavat Purana from Vrindavan. I don't know what time it is in Vrindavan, but thanks for joining us. Thanks to everyone. Like, share, comment. We'll answer all of your comments, and we'll be with you tomorrow for Transcendental Tuesday. If you'd like to conclude the show, we'll chant the Maha Mantra twice together, giving you time to type in any last comments or hit any last emojis. And we'll be with you tomorrow for more on Transcendental Tuesday. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Ram,
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna,
Hare
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 Ram,
Hare
Hare Ram,
Ram,
Ram Ram,
Hare
Hare Hare.
Hare